I woke up on a quiet Tuesday morning to something surreal. A brand new 8-foot white vinyl fence cutting straight through the middle of my backyard. Not around it, not beside it. Right down the center of my property. Attached to the gate was a bright yellow sign that read in bold letters, "Private HOA property. Trespassers will be prosecuted." It was as if someone performed a magic trick overnight, except instead of pulling a rabbit from a hat, they pulled half my land into an alternate dimension owned by the HOA. My name's Daniel Morrison. Lived on the edge of the Maple Ridge Estates for 3 years, and I bought my house. I specifically chose it because it came with an extra acre of undeveloped land. The perfect place for a future workshop or maybe a little orchard. The property line was clearly marked in my deed, which was properly recorded with the county, and I've been paying taxes on that entire parcel since day one. So you can imagine my reaction when I found a letter taped to my front door, demanding I pay $600 a month in land usage fees for my own land. The letter was signed by none other than Patricia Garrison, the infamous president of the Maple Ridge HOA. Now, Patricia was already something of a legend in the neighborhood, not in a good way. She was known for enforcing lawn length with a ruler and issuing fines for mailboxes that were in the approved shade of black. Dedicated? Sure. Dictatorial, definitely. But this was a whole new level. I assumed it had to be a mistake. No one would intentionally build a fence across someone else's land and demand rent. Right, so I calmly gathered my documents. The property deed, the survey, tax records, and walked over to Patricia's house, which doubled as the unofficial HOA HQ. Her garage had been converted into a command center, complete with filing cabinets and aerial photos of neighborhood homes, marked with red X's like some dystopian Pinterest board. She opened the door wearing what I can only describe as business casual armor. Blazer crisp enough to slice paper, clipboard in hand like a sword. Before I could speak, she launched into a speech about how the HOA had voted to reclaim underutilized land for community enhancement. I showed her my property deed. She waved it off like it was irrelevant. "The HOA bylaws supersede property lines," she said, smiling. Apparently, she'd already decided to convert my acre into a premium dog park, complete with keycard access for members who paid extra. I told her this was theft. She laughed and said, "Possession is 9/10 of the law." What followed was surreal. I watched from my kitchen window over the next few days as benches, weigh stations, and more signage were installed. Patricia even held a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the grand opening of Maple Ridge Premium Pet Paradise. There was a photographer, giant scissors, champagne. I tried speaking to other HOA board members. One nervously said Patricia had files on everyone. Another just shrugged and said, "Dog parks raise property values." That's when I decided to stop being polite. Because what Patricia didn't know is that I work as a contract specialist for a real estate development firm. My day job is analyzing property rights, zoning laws, and easements. And here's the kicker. When I purchased my home, I registered a conservation easement on that acre with the County Environmental Protection Agency. It legally prohibited any permanent structures or commercial activity without my written consent. Everything Patricia and her crew had done was not only a violation of property law, it violated environmental regulations with stiff penalties. We're talking $500 per day per violation. 8 days. 12 violations, do the math. I compiled a detailed folder, my deed, the easement paperwork, photos of the illegal construction, tax receipts, a penalty breakdown now exceeding $48,000. I also had my lawyer, who specializes in HOA abuse, draft a cease and desist letter. Then came the HOA meeting. Patricia stood at the podium boasting about how the dog park project was already profitable and how they were planning to add an agility course. That's when I walked to the front of the room with my folder. She tried to shut me down, said I wasn't on the agenda. The homeowners, clearly fed up with her nonsense, demanded to hear me out. I laid it all out calmly and professionally. The land is mine. The HOA has no legal authority to take it. The easement makes what they did illegal at both county and state levels. The penalties are already enormous and rising daily. Individuals who knowingly participated could be personally liable. At that, the room exploded. Gerald, the nervous board member, got up and left. Sandra, the shrugger, started Googling her liability coverage. Spoiler. Homeowners insurance doesn't cover willful HOA misconduct. Patricia, still clinging to power, claimed that the HOA had sovereign immunity. Yes, she actually said that. I put her on speakerphone with my attorney, who clarified that one, no, they don't. And two, claiming that could itself be fraud. The room turned on her. Residents who'd been silent for years started airing their own grievances. Patricia tried to maintain control, but the board called an emergency vote on the spot. The result? 4-1 in favor of complying with all my demands. Fence removed, property restored, $35,000 settlement paid to me personally, the loan no vote. At Patricia. But it didn't end there. The next day, someone wonder who, filed a zoning complaint, claiming I was illegally occupying HOA property. That triggered a county inspection, exactly what I'd hoped for. The inspector verified my ownership and found that the HOA was in violation of multiple conservation and zoning laws. Fines could now reach over $100,000. Patricia, as the signing authority, could be personally liable. Then came the special election to replace her. Patricia campaigned hard. Flyers, a PowerPoint. Even claimed the $48,000 settlement was an investment in community harmony. Final vote count, 112-3. One was her, one was her husband. The third was disqualified for being submitted twice. The new board president, a retired attorney, immediately began cooperating with the county. They negotiated the fines down to $65,000 on top of my $35,000 settlement. Patricia, she was served with a civil lawsuit from the HOA's insurance provider, seeking $25,000 in damages for willful misconduct. She tried to represent herself in court, armed with HOA bylaws and printouts from Facebook groups. The judge shut it down fast, reminding her that HOA rules don't override state law. He'd fined her $15,000 personally and sentenced her to 300 hours of environmental restoration service. When asked if she understood the ruling, Patricia said she didn't recognize the court's authority. The judge added another 100 hours for contempt. That was the moment she finally realized. Her HOA dictatorship was over, and the real world had caught up with her.